Guys, I'm pumped about this episode, actually. I really want to talk about how to redefine yourself in your career and life when you become a mom. And I want to start by prompting, those who listen to us, follow our podcast, send this to somebody who you've been having this conversation with, someone who's coming back from maternity leave, someone who's about to go on maternity leave, someone who's thinking about having kids, somebody who says kids, are not in the cards for them, or someone who's been trying to have children and is really having a hard time getting pregnant, right? All this episode welcomes all, right? And just to share a little bit of my personal experience, I was petrified to be a mom. I was petrified for my career to change. I was petrified for how it would impact my body. I was petrified in what I didn't know. I was petrified in the powerlessness of it. I think that the best way I can basically equate it is early on in my recovery journey, a lot that stemmed from the recovery process was having a complete powerlessness and surrender to what was ahead. And that is really what keeps a lot of people who are in active addiction stuck, because it feels so scary to get to the other side.
Mm-hmm.
Fear of the unknown. So just kind of blanket term, me being a mom felt like fear of the unknown.
It sounds like Frozen right now. It sounds like that song in Frozen.
Yeah.
It's like into the unknown.
Into the unknown. And then my son also listens to the version the other song, Lost in the Woods. I felt like fear of the unknown, and then I'm lost in the woods. Okay. So
I did not have that experience.
What was your experience?
And Molly would call me prior to when they were discussing having children. And I was like, Molly, you're just going to figure it out. Like, yeah, you're not going to know everything. Like, and the thing is, with children, especially, you can prepare for anything. Usually that's not the kid God gives you, though. That's just how it works out. Like, and that's how it is with having like multiple children, is like, oh, I've done this before. I got this. No, not with this one. You haven't. Not with the second one, because the second one has different instructions than the first one. I always knew I was going to be a mom, and I didn't know how I was going to do it. I never had a maternal instinct, I would say, but I don't know. I just didn't really think about it, to be honest with you.
I had the opposite experience, and I actually just shared this on Instagram not that long ago, is that my mom always had this belief that I was going to be a mom. I never had the belief that I was going to be a mom. I did not have that. And I did have a motherly instinct, though, too. So it was like a little bit of a weird conundrum I was in.
Well, that's why your mom probably saw it.
Yeah, I'm sure. But, when you're doing your thing and you're drinking and using and doing whatever else you're doing, the first thought isn't like, who am I marrying and who am I having kids with?
No.
It's just not. So that prompted the dialogue of saying, okay, let's talk about how do you redefine yourself in your career while becoming a mom?
The interruptions in a woman's career when you go out on maternity leave, it is real. It professionally does set women back. I think there is an unspoken bias. Yes, we have all the laws against discrimination around women and women who are pregnant. But the reality is, I think there are times where women are passed up for leadership roles or roles with more responsibilities when they know you're of childbearing age, which is, to be fair, in the behavioral health space, the majority of people that I employ.
Mm-hmm.
It's just part of our culture. People are having babies and they're raising their families. And like, that's part of the culture that we've built. It's just part of it. But I do think that it is a real fear, because the statistics do show it does hold women back. And I think there are a lot of women who put their careers on pause. And I know a lot of women who stepped out of the profession that they went to college for or got a degree in. I know women who have decided I'd rather stay home during this period of time with my young children, whether it financially makes more sense or they just couldn't do both and they wanted to pursue being a mother first. Giving up my career was never really an option. So my story is that I was 9 months pregnant when I graduated with my master's degree. So I graduated in May. I had my first child in June. I was licensed as a, mental health therapist by August, and my career started. I stepped into a clinical or a director role overseeing multiple programs in, let's say, September. Maybe I had a 6-month-old. So my career pretty much started with a newborn. like
Yeah.
in this way.
Yeah. Becoming a mom can completely alter things that we've already talked about on this podcast: priorities, energy, confidence, tolerance levels.
Mhm.
It can trigger loss and grief in your own identity. It can move you towards feeling disconnected from your previous career and or yourself, depending on where you are and kind of what this next phase of life looks like. So, what would you say surprised you the most becoming a mom while also transitioning into a very robust career? Because you had primarily been, yes, you were still like a frontline worker and working towards your degree, but obviously things catapulted in a much greater way after you got your master's.
What surprised me the most is probably honestly, like that I just figured it out. I don't ever remember feeling like I had to make a choice in those early days, like between my family and my career. I feel like part of it was how much having a daughter specifically like healed part of me. Like I think that my nervous system regulating to Audrey's also, I think you also have to look at my husband 3 months earlier almost died. So there was a lot going on in that like 6-month period of being pregnant, having the child, and then getting into the field that I was in a demanding job. I mean, I was overseeing crisis programs. So I think like maybe it was the near death experience of my husband during that time where like honestly it was like, yeah, this is just how it is. Like, I don't know. I just feel like I just rolled with the punches easier because it was like, yeah, it's not that serious. Like if my child needs me, I stay home. If they don't, I go to work. I mean, I would go and work and see the third shift workers at 4 a.m. sometimes during that time. So honestly, in some ways, I think it helped me because, your sleep's all screwed up for the first year plus with with a newborn anyway.
I think what surprised me the most about becoming a mom in terms of my professional career is how similar the level of resilience you need with children versus employees versus clients. It's essentially the same coping skills.
Also, it just came to mind what was surprising. People don't really give a shit that you have a baby at home. Okay.
No.
I'm just going to throw that out there. And this goes back to the discrimination piece. Like I was expected to show up in a leadership position. They didn't care that I was nursing to the point of I didn't have a place to pump when I was at work. And I think
Yeah.
that was one of the more surprising things where like I remember having to lock my office door because it was like a community office. I would have to jimmy like a chair and then sit right by the door so that no one would come in while I was pumping because there was no like private space. Yeah. I would pump sometimes in the car, like driving.
Oh, not even in question.
Yeah.
Regularly.
And I had kids before
The
the
hands
fancy
free.
one.
Don't.
No, I
Yeah.
didn't have that. I didn't have that.
Yeah. So
Nor
you're
do we need to
unwell.
try them. Nor do we need to ever experience them, to be clear.
So was there, the sense of feeling pressure to bounce back professionally for you?
Not my first, but for my second, I was in the midst of opening up a new program. I did come back from maternity leave early. I came back after maybe 2.5 months. And that was like the beginning of the end for me in agency work. That's where
Mhm.
things shifted. Having two is where things shifted, where I was like, yeah, this isn't the life for me. Like, I'm not living on this being needed all the time by somebody in a way that
Mhm.
felt like urgent
Mhm.
and all the time.
Mhm.
That's when it was like 24-hour programs are not for me anymore.
Yeah, I think that as things started to develop, as soon as I had my first baby, I really, well, I'll back it up because I think that there was so much fear and trepidation and concern. I remember being so pregnant on the unit and I was days away from giving birth. And I remember one of my directors looking at me and she goes, you're going to have a baby like any day now, right? And I was like, yeah, but we'll like think about that later, right? Because it just felt like there was so much to try to control for me, knowing that in a very short time, I was not going to have control over what felt like anything. And so there was this like hyper vigilance going on, right? Like there's so much intensity to kind of keep all the ducks in the row. And I will tell you that there was also this general kind of release and powerlessness once my child did come. And I did go on a 3-month maternity leave for both my kids, running an agency, having, quite a few staff members on that unit. And doing that 3-month maternity leave, what I really realized, and I think this is so important for people who are preparing, whether that means you need to take time away because you have something going on in your family, whether you have sickness, whether you have just want to take a sabbatical, whether you are pregnant, whether you're about to have a baby, whatever it is, that if you have the proper infrastructure in a system, you being gone, it's going to be fine. And I can attest to that, right? So, really, what it taught me was that I never really had that much control to begin with. The small things that I, lost sleep over were not that serious, they weren't that big. And I think I became more confident in handling the things that felt big, right? Like, I mean, you say that that's because of the challenge and the near death experience with Alan, but I think that also really comes from children.
There's a part of you, for me, I gave birth to both my children unmedicated on my own. Like, I did that shit. So after that, there's nothing you can tell me I can't do after that. So just point blank, period. Like, I think the confidence comes from, and I don't care how you, that's my birth experience. I don't care if you had a C-section. I don't care if you had an epidural. I don't care how you brought the child into the world. If you birthed a child, no one can tell you anything because you did something that
So true.
It is. I mean, you brought life into this world.
It's so true.
You did like the most. That is like the biggest, most beautiful, like miraculous thing you can do. So after that, what's a little something at work, please? Now, do I keep that perspective all the time? No, I do not. Do you feel like it's made you more or less ambitious?
More. You can do anything in a 24-hour period when you have kids. I am just here to say it. Like, you could be dancing to Miss Rachel and the next minute making a lasagna. And don't trust me to make that lasagna. We've already discussed that on a previous episode. Me and like the whole sauce community were at war. I mean, Jill can do that better. But
sometimes. Do we remember the burnt sauce? Do we remember?
But I really feel like I became more ambitious in a 24-hour period. So much more can get done in a 24-hour period after you have kids.
What I will say made me more ambitious is the existential threat of being a stay-at-home mom. No, I'm about to be out here making this money because what would not have worked well for my children, for me, and I think that some people feel like it's like a negative thing to say this. I am not built to be a stay-at-home mom. I am not built to be home. I'm not built to be home with children, period, all day. Never mind. And I love my children the most. So I give it up to teachers and daycare providers and nannies and that's not for me. So I think part of the ambition for me is like, I want my children to also see what's possible, in terms of building something, in terms of staying committed to something, in terms of how you treat people. Like my children are privy to conversations around, employee stuff and like just running the business and the stressors that come from that. Like yesterday, we were off yesterday. My kids saw me in between the kid activities, in between cooking dinner. I was working on my day off. I probably put in 6 good hours yesterday. They saw me at that computer because I had a deadline. I had something I had to do. Do I feel guilty for that? No, because they didn't need me during that time anyway. I was present for the moments that we had time as a family, but they're kind of used to it. They become used to your lifestyle in terms of what's important. They're at the age now where I can have conversations about why we do things the way we do. And, in order to go on vacations and travel and be present at all their sports games and XYZ, like we also have to work sometimes. That's inconvenient for specifically us, for me, around their schedule.
Well, how have you had to really, I think for me, redefining what that means and redefining my schedule and what success means, I think has a couple layers. Redefining what success means for me in terms of being a mom is making sure that I'm available for the quiet moments, for the exciting times, for the sad moments, like just available and aligned and to have an attunement to my kids and what they need. But also redefining what success looks like in terms of work is the value of my time and where that's going, right? So I know that my time is valuable. I know that there's a certain impact I can make now, especially at the place I am in my career, that all of those building blocks, all of those fundamental moments that took me to incrementally get to the next phase and the next phase and the next phase have really paid off as a mom now, right? Because now I'm in a place where not only has it helped me in my family and as a parent, but I'm so much clearer on where my energy will be best used. So I feel like it has only created more ambition, more passion, more excitement, and, really kind of solidified like my boundaries too. So, what boundaries became like front and center that are now non negotiable after kids, especially in terms of your career?
I mean, it's hard, right? Because I feel like in terms of work stuff, boundaries are sometimes flexible. Like I just gave the example that like on I worked over the weekend. We had a 3-day weekend. Yesterday I literally I had a deadline that I had to meet and so I had to work. Now, that would not be the norm. I generally prioritize things that I've talked about on this podcast before, and I prioritize it for my family, so my children. So sleep, eating consistently and nutritiously, moving my body. I would say in terms of boundaries, though, the boundaries are really energetic for me, and they are also showing up as my authentic self. So an example of that would be don't expect me to be at all the kids stuff. In terms of the PTA meetings, in terms of I will show up with things. I will donate things. But like I can't be there in my time. Now, what I will be at is the things that my kids want me at. So we've just reached an age where my daughter does not want me at the field trips anymore. So I took full advantage up until this point. So I had 11 good years where she wanted me on the field trip. She wanted me at the field days. She wanted me at all those things. And I showed up for those things. Like that was a boundary for me. That's why I got out of agency work so I could take that time off and be available when I want to be. Right. But the other stuff that's more for like the parents, I'm probably not going to be at that.
Mm.
It's a
Just go
boundary
out
for
to
me.
dinner with a couple parents, that's like my vote. Even like this week, I was talking with one of my neighbors, and she and her cousin were spending some time together, and her cousin's in town. And I was like, it sounds like you've been in the trenches for a few days. She's a stay-at-home mom and she has 4 kids. And I was like, you've been in the trenches for a little bit. Why don't we go to dinner this week? She's like, yes, please. So like those are the things that I feel like I direct my energy towards, right? How can we lift each other up? We're talking about our personal experience in our own businesses and had worked previously for other businesses, but this also applies to stay-at-home moms, and what that looks like in terms of how you still hold on to your ambition and your own goals and your own aspirations while being a mom.
You know what it just made me think of? The boundary really is trying not to keep up with the Joneses in terms of parenting. And you see the Instagram reels. You see the 1-year-old birthday parties with the food truck and the this and that. And it's like, I'm not doing all that. We are making a homemade birthday cake. We're having family over. We're singing happy birthday. Like I'm not doing things that I don't want to do just because it looks better to everyone else that I'm doing these things. Like I'm not here for it. I'm not doing it. And that's where I think a lot of the mom guilt comes in because it's like, oh, well, my children are suffering because they don't have XYZ or they don't. Yeah, no, we have to have conversations with our kids that like, yeah, well, Johnny might be able to do that or have those things, but like, that's not what we do in our family. So I don't know what to tell you. Like, that's a big boundary for me in terms of like feeling like I'm true to myself as like who I am, but also just keeping it real with my kids too. Like, I don't know. I feel like with social media and society, it's like there's so much pressure to be like overextending yourself, whether it's your energy, your time, your money, everything in the name of like parenting. And not for nothing, but we have some of those people in therapy now and it didn't work out so well. So like
Yeah.
maybe
And
tone it down.
no is a complete answer, and I would also suggest this is a subtle plug to take an Instagram hiatus. It
Molly
feels
loves
pretty
those
nice.
lately.
Love an IG hiatus. I'll still log in to, share the pod and any other business ventures that I have going on to ensure that, we don't totally screw up the algorithm, but a little less doom scrolling goes a long way, guys. Just here to say it. So,
I also think though that you have to maintain your identity as a woman, as a person, put your marriage first because we see a lot of people who mothers especially like I think during COVID the statistics are around mothers who started drinking alcoholically. When you either have the pressures of motherhood and you don't feel like you have a tribe, number one, but number two, if you are pouring everything into your children And they get to that age, which this happens around 12 to 15 years old when they start wanting to be around their friends more than they want to be around you. And you've put your whole identity into your children and you've lost your sense of friendships, your marriage, all these things and other connections as an adult, you're going to be really lost.
You know who wants to be around their friends more than their parents? My 4-year-old. Yesterday, I caught him walking up the hill with his sister, okay? Just left, went to go hang out with the neighbor, walking by themselves with my brother's dog.
Yeah.
The
I
3 of
mean,
them, they
they
were
were
on an
out.
adventure. They were on a field trip. So, the purpose of me saying that though is that a lot of that autonomy and, safety and being able to spend time with other people and spend time with friends and have other relationships outside of just me has really come by way of, right, me working, and me establishing my own routines. So, in closing, what does success mean to you today as a mother of 2, one of them being a tween?
Success means being present in the moments that matter. And it's not always the big moments, but it's like the moments where they need me and knowing when they need me.
Mhm.
Like I was at success looks like, give you an example. Success looks like me being at a dinner in New York City and my daughter having the best game of her life and her saying to me, I really wish you were here, but then being just as excited to FaceTime with me. And I'm in the bathroom in this like tiny restaurant FaceTiming with her as people are flushing the toilet. So she can tell me about her game. And like, this isn't going to be a moment later on in life where she's like, my mom wasn't there. Like, I showed up, I stepped aside, I put her first. Right. But like, it's not, you can have both and she
Mhm.
can understand that and know that I'm still there even though I'm not there. Like I was still the first person she called to tell about it,
Mhm.
So
Yeah.
that's what success is for me.
Mhm.
What about you?
Success means to me today, um, I feel like it definitely looks different than when I first started in my career because I think I was just really eager to earn my stripes. Success today means distinguishing where my time and energy is needed on any given day, whether that be with my clients, with my kids, with my family. I will say I'm easing into a more balanced lifestyle. And by balance, for me, that just means that it doesn't always have to be, at 100 miles per hour. And so, yeah, I mean, success means today to like be in alignment of myself and to be in alignment with the people that I'm around.
Well, everyone, thanks for listening today. And make sure that you drop your email in our show notes as our sign up for our new newsletter and follow us on Instagram. We'd love to hear from you and any feedback you have on today's episode.
Until next time.